The most artistic, the most beautiful, had the best cast, a French film director. I lived in Manhattan, you know, I knew what 42nd Street was. I knew what it was like to see, not from personal experience, but to see it. And we were creating this unbelievable story about a period in time, 1901, and it was such a beautiful, beautiful experience. Sort of the controversy that surrounded it, it didn't occur to us. And I didn't feel like a victim. I didn't feel compromised. I didn't, you know, it was, I was always rather, precocious isn't the right word, but I had this understanding at a very young age of what life was about and what art was. I mean, my mom took me to all these French movies and took me to Fellini movies and French movies and I don't know, I think we knew we were doing something artistic, and maybe that's just hindsight, maybe I'm fooling myself, but what I can say is I did feel threatened. I felt more threatened, honestly, going to Japan and trying to sell Nescafe, because it felt stupid to me. And I'm nothing against Nescafe, but it was like, I had more of an issue when I was little, sort of going and selling things that that seemed silly to me.
The Brooke doll?
The Brooke is ridiculous.
Anyone have the Brooke Shields doll? Yes.
Now, collector's items at this point. My kids refuse to play with them. And again, you know, it's not mom did. It was like, oh, the price is right. We got to buy a car. You know, we got to buy a house. These things afforded us opportunities that we would have never had. And they might not have been fitting into a career that was on one trajectory, whether it was like, she's gonna be an actress and she's gonna be working in artistic films. Well, no, very quickly I'm doing the most commercial movie ever.
Hustling, yeah.
I'm hustling too, you know, she's meeting people on airplanes and making deals for things, you just did it because there was a good amount of money attached to it. It was a good amount of exposure, and to my mom, exposure meant success, and that success afforded you things, and her whole thing was longevity, but stemming from what now are reality stars. You know, it's a really interesting thing now, because she believed that as long as people were talking about you, then you were at least insured a bit more time in this industry. And sometimes I have a big issue with that, because it's hard for me to even understand what kind of a career I've had. You know, people sort of say to me, oh, you've been so versatile, and it's because of necessity. It's because, you know, after a couple of really commercial movies, the French artists weren't calling me to be in their movies anymore. You know, all of a sudden I was a celebrity, and I was no longer an actress, and then how do you reconcile that? So she never, now I have a team of people that I work with who are experts in their field. She never took any advice from anybody. I was never gonna have a manager, I was never gonna have anybody but her, I was never gonna have an agent, I was never gonna have a publicist, and so instead of deferring to people who really did, or maybe didn't know better, but who had knowledge of the way that part of the industry worked, she was all those. Yeah, that's it. She was. Yeah. No one was going to get close to me.
I made a